So you've created that buyer loop. Now it's time to present the documents to the buyer. Okay, going to dot loop. You already know how to get there. We've got the buyer advisory, we've got the brokerage disclosure to buyer, and we've got the exclusive right to buy. So the first document that I would present is the brokerage disclosure to buyer. Here we have it. So this is a brokerage disclosure to buyer, and what this document does is it explains the different relationships between a real estate licensee and a buyer or seller. There are four main ways that a person can be represented. And we've got the seller's agent, buyer's agent, transaction broker, and customer. Now, the seller's agent and the buyer's agent are very similar, except one works for the buyer, one works for the seller. In this case, I will be working with you as a buyer's agent. You are a buyer. An important thing for you to know here is that the agent works solely on behalf of the buyer, and I love this. They work with the utmost good faith, loyalty, and fidelity. They negotiate on behalf of the buyer, and they're just really looking out for your best interests. The seller's agent is doing the same thing, but for a seller. Transaction broker exists. The state of Colorado created this type of relationship to let someone represent both sides in a transaction. If the broker doesn't have any relationship, any prior relationship with either the buyer or the seller, they can turn into an impartial person and represent both sides, write up offers, prepare counters, etc., etc. Some real estate licensees practice as a transaction broker in the state of Colorado. They're not allowed to really advise or look out for the buyer or the seller. And until we have an agency relationship, that's kind of how I'm representing you, is as a transaction broker, which I don't like. I like being able to advocate for you and advise you and look out for your best interests. The fourth is a customer. A customer is somebody who doesn't have a relationship with the licensee at all. Typically, if you see a customer, it's because someone is a seller's agent and there's a buyer who's coming to buy a property that is listed by a seller's agent. Or it could be that there is a buyer who has a buyer's agent, and the customer would be a for sale by owner, someone who's not represented in the transaction. If I have a customer, I can write up an offer for them, but I can't advise them, and I don't have the duties that I would as a transaction broker or an agent. So in this case, I'm going to be, as soon as we get done with this document and get to the buyer agency, I'm going to be an agent for you, but presently I'm a transaction broker. We're looking for residential property in Mesa County. I'm a multiple person firm, just means that the agreement's between the firm and you, not between me and you. If I was a one-person firm, I would be the same as the firm. So we're going to check this box, customer for brokers listings and a transaction broker for other properties. And here we go. We're going to go down to the bottom of this. You'll notice this is just an acknowledgement. This is not a contract. So go ahead and take the mouse, sign right here, and then I'm going to sign this. Sweet. Okay, now on to the exclusive right to buy listing contract. Now this is the one that makes me your agent. So you'll see here that this box is checked, saying that I'm going to be your buyer's agent. And here we go on the first day of the year, January 1st, 2019. Talked about multiple person firm already. Hey, do I have your permission to go over the high points of this, to go over the things that have been filled in and maybe not spend too much time on all of every line of this? It's 6 pages. If we go over every line, it could take some time. So you're good with that? Sweet. All right. So here you are, Joe Blow. Did I spell your name right? Excellent. Thank you. Keller Williams, that's our brokerage firm. Travis Cox, that's me. Looking for residential property in Mesa County. And here we have the listing period starting today and going until Saturday. We're going to find you a home in 5 days. Okay, so we have, let's go back down to here. If I don't find you a house on Saturday, this says that gets extended to Monday. Extended to the next business day. We're going to go down here. This says I'm going to be your buyer's agent unless I have a relationship with both. If it turns out that you buy one of my listings, we'll go into that transaction brokerage relationship that we talked about before. So these are the typical brokerage duties. These are standard uniform duties that every broker owes a buyer. Presenting all offers, yada yada, accounting for all money. Can't disclose what your motivating factors are. Can't disclose that you'll agree to terms other than what we put in an offer. And those are uniform for everybody, even transaction broker. When you get down here, you'll see that these are the extra duties that I owe you as an agent. Promote the interest of the buyer, seek price and terms that are acceptable to you, and counsel you. Here's Section 7. Section 7 is my favorite one. This is where I get paid. Here you'll see we have a checkbox for success fee. And if I'm successful in finding you a house and we go under contract, I get a success fee of 4%. Now, it's good to know that you don't have to pay me if we buy a house that's on the MLS. We're going to go over that a little more later on here. I'm not going to charge you an hourly fee. I'm not going to charge you a retainer fee. And we're not going to do any other compensation outside of the 4% of the success fee. So here's the section I was talking about, Section 7.3. Who will pay the brokerage firm's fee? Now, we have this box checked, and this box checks says that I can get paid by the listing brokerage firm or the seller, but you're obligated to pay. Now, this is actually good for you, and the reason it's good for you is because every house we go look at on the MLS, they're going to be offering compensation to me. That's getting paid by the listing brokerage firm or the MLS. You see these sheets right here. You see where it says BB 3% and TB 3%. That says right there that they're offering a cooperating broker, anybody who brings a buyer, they're offering them 3% commission of the sales price. Now, this buyer is obligated to pay. What that means is that if we go and we buy something that's not on the MLS, let's say we go buy a property that is listed as out there as a for sale by owner, or let's say that we find a property that is on the expireds list, because I'll look at expireds for you. You know, a house that went off the market 2 or 3 weeks ago, they might still be willing to pay or sell. And maybe maybe they just took it off for a little while. Maybe they weren't happy with their broker. Who knows? They may still want to sell, and it may be perfect for you, but it's not on the MLS anymore. So in that case, this box says you are obligated to pay me. However, I've said this was good for you, and your obligation to pay me, how can that be good for you? Well, if you have an obligation to pay me, we can work it into the contract. You see, the state of Colorado says that the contract is between the buyer and the seller, not the buyer, the seller, and the broker. So I can't have anything in a contract you can't have anything in a contract that benefits me. The contract can only benefit you. I'm not a party to it. So we can't put my commission into the contract unless it benefits you. And the way having my commission in the contract benefits you is this checkbox. By checking this box, you are obligated to pay me. You have a debt to me. Therefore, when we put it in the contract, it's a benefit to you because it takes care of a debt that you have. If you were not obligated to pay me, there would be no debt, thus it couldn't go into the contract. So this is how we work commission into a deal when we're dealing with a for sale by owner or an expired. So, yeah. Let's scoot on down here. We've got a holdover period. If we go out and find you a house in this week, but it just doesn't work out, you just don't get it under contract, for the next 30 days you need to use me on buying that house. You need to use me even if you sign with another broker. So be sure if you sign with another broker to let them know that there's a couple houses excluded from the agency relationship with them. This does say here you're not currently party to a buyer agency agreement, just like this for the property that we're out looking for. That's true, isn't it? Good, excellent. Okay, I'm going to keep scooting on down. Okay, I want you to know I don't have a super key, which means that I can't get into most houses in Grand Junction without some special accommodation. So, in the next 5 days, we probably aren't going to find you a house because I'm not going to be able to show you many because I can't get into them, even though I can show them to you on the MLS. Probably not going to be able to show them to you. Okay, disclosure of broker's identity. I do have permission to disclose your identity. That's what that box says. I'm going to keep scooting down. This is other contract stuff. We agree not to Not to discriminate, you know, I'm not an attorney or an accountant. You're going to get tax advice and legal advice from them. If there's a dispute, we agree to mediate. Loser pays attorney's fees, just like every contract you've ever signed, huh? Okay. We've got here that we agree to email and internet delivery of documents back and forth between you and I. No fax machines involved in this transaction. Okay. Right down here, this is where you sign, and I'm going to sign right over there. Excellent. Okay, one more document, one last document to go over. This is buyer advisory, and I want you to know that this document right here, it says this is not a state of Colorado form. This has not been approved by the Real Estate Commission. It was prepared by our attorney. Luckily, though, it's not a contract. It's just a disclosure to you. It's an advisory, letting you know that, you know, I'm a trained real estate licensee. I can prepare these documents. However, I'm not an attorney. So if you feel like you need an attorney, please go get an attorney to review these with you. Earnest money disputes can get ugly. Sometimes people change their mind. Sometimes you know, you went into a contract with the best of intentions, but it just didn't work out. And you know, an earnest money dispute can cost more money than the earnest money itself. So let's just be aware of that and do our best to not lose our earnest money and not get into a fight. Please don't change your mind. If you are having any doubts at any point in this transaction, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it so that we don't have any last minute changes. Obtaining a loan, there's so many different types of loans and so many different costs of loans. By the loan objection deadline, we need to have the loan, you know, sewn up. Wire fraud. There's lots of nasty people out there, and they're really good at stealing our money. So just beware that wire fraud is a big deal. Always confirm wiring instructions over the phone. Emailing wiring instructions can be bad. And make sure, you know, title companies use these secure email servers that we have to log into to get encrypted messages. So that prevents wire fraud. Be aware of it. Be aware of it at every step. If you ever have any doubt, give me a call, give the title company a call, and let's make sure that nobody sends any money to anybody in Nigeria. Okay, disclosures. Sometimes there are disclosures, public records. They can be false, or sometimes they don't disclose everything they're supposed to. We've got no way of knowing whether the buyer or the seller was being honest. So just be aware of that, and we'll do our own due diligence and check out what there is to check out. Yep, and right here we're talking about due diligence. Due diligence, checking out everything that we can. Home inspections. Really advise you to get a home inspector. They go through a laundry list of things and give you a fantastic report. Environmental hazards can exist. If you feel like you need to, you know, hire an independent environmental professional to look at any of the issues that may exist. Square footage disclosure. There's all kinds of square footage out there listed on the MLS, and there will be a document about a disclosure. Just be aware that if you have any doubt, you know, an appraiser or an engineer might be a good choice for verifying the square footage. Septic systems sometimes need to be inspected. Well, you should inspect them, but sometimes they need to be inspected to be transferred. Water, we've got a source of water form that you'll have in front of you that talks about where your water comes from on whatever property. Also be aware that if a home was built before 1978 and has been remodeled after 2010, there are some different restrictions on how the home needed to be remodeled just to take care of any lead-based paint issues. All right, this one in number 7 here wants you to know that there's parasites that kill trees, and trees have a lot of value. So, you know, maybe it's not a bad idea to have the Colorado State Forest Service visit, look at trees. Maybe the city of Grand Junction might have their arborist, or, you know, there's just tree services that can come take a look at trees. Oh man, we've got wild animals. If you're worried about wild animals in the proximity of your home, call the Division of Wildlife. Okay. There's so many zoning issues and you know, development issues. If you're worried about these, let's talk to the appropriate agencies. Okay. Bank-owned disclosures or bank-owned property short sales, may have issues in the inspection, may be difficult to inspect. Just be aware of that. We'll talk more about that later. Surveys, always a good idea to get a survey on any property. Short sales could be a pain in the butt. That's what that one says. That's really what it says. Insurance, got to get that insurance. Home warranty. We talked a little bit about home warranties earlier. They can cover replacement costs. Everybody's got their own opinion on them. We encourage you to look into a home warranty, though. We're going to have a title commitment coming to you. I'll look at that. You'll look at that. But remember, I'm not an attorney. I'm really not equipped to say whether a title commitment is perfect or not. So, if you feel you need to, take it to your attorney. HOAs can impose rules on a property. Again, find legal counsel if you feel there's something in an HOA document that is concerning to you. Same with special taxing districts. They exist. They can impose taxes on you. A good example are the water districts or the Grand Junction drainage districts. They pay for things, but they can also impose new taxes on you. This one is about letting the seller have possession of a property after closing. We do not advise that. It can cause all kinds of trouble with insurance, with liability, with damage to the property, with maybe having to evict the seller. FIRPTA is an issue that we all need to worry about, or be aware of, not worry about, but be aware of. If the seller is a foreign national, there may be a tax liability that they have when they sell the property. If they don't and they leave town, they leave the country, or even if they stay in town and they don't, you could be obligated to pay those taxes for them if they are foreign and have not had the proper taxes withheld. Okay, property value. I'm not an appraiser. I'm going to do my best to help you figure out what the value of a property is that you're making an offer on, but we strongly suggest getting an appraisal. And if you're using a loan, you'll have an appraisal anyhow. And recommendation. We are going to recommend all kinds of people to you to help you out with this transaction. Just know that we're not warranting their performance. And we encourage you to talk to multiple professionals. If you're not happy with them, just let me know. Let me know, because I really need to know that information. So here you go. You're going to sign right there. And we're going to go back, and that's the entire buyer presentation. The big one, by the way, guys, is the buyer advisory. It seems to take a long time, but you'll practice it, get used to it, and you'll be smooth.